Joining me now, Republican strategist and senior contributor to Red Alert Politics, Gianno Cadwell. Gianno, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Gianno, let's start right with this question of the day. I mean, you heard Mark Lamont Hill on that video clip. He accused Steve Harvey and any other black people who've met with President-elect Trump of being, quote, mediocre Negroes. Those are his words. Gianno, not only is this shocking to me, but is this a representation of Obama's legacy of racial healing in our nation?
It has to be. And while I'm Millie rocking and dabbing on Mark Lamont Hill, I can tell you, for anybody in the black community that chooses to speak out against the Democratic Party, whether they be a Democrat or not, whether they be a Republican or not, or choose to say anything in support of President-elect Trump, we see that they're called these kinds of names time and time again, and it's really disappointing because the truth is, and at the end of the day, if you are not at the table, then you are on the menu. This is not about politics anymore, Liz, and I'm troubled that my community's response to many leaders, and these are authentic black people, if you want to call them that. I remember when Mark Lamont Hill interviewed me, and he said, "You're the blackest black Republican I ever met." And when he went after me on television, on Twitter, in the 30 tweets we did that segment on.
Right.
These are authentic black people, similar to me, with very authentic stories. These aren't sellouts or whatever they want to call them. These are people who truly care about the African-American community. They've done the work. They've been in the game for many, many years. And the moment Steve Harvey or anyone else says, look, this is the next leader of the free world, I want to sit down and get something done for my community. He's a coon. He's a sellout. He's an Uncle Tom. He's all these different things. And I wonder, why is it that our community can't get together on anything, right? We can't get together on criminal justice reform. We can't get together on economic development. But the one thing my community can't get together on is hating Republicans. This is insane.
No,
Liz.
even the word that you use, the authentic black person versus Mark Lamont Hill's use of the term mediocre. I mean, it honestly, if you drill it down to just the essence, the thesis of this statement here, what he's saying is that if you're black, you can't support Trump unless you're willing to relinquish not only your race, but your identity. I mean, that's messed up, Gianno.
You know what was interesting to me, and this is something that's widespread within our community. I had lunch on Sunday with a friend of mine, a doctor here in D.C., and she told me, I'm glad that you're not going to the Trump administration because if you were, then I could no longer respect you. And I was so upset, Liz.
Right.
I said, how could you say something like that to me? How could you ever? If you're not in the game, then you're losing. This is an opportunity for many, Steve Harvey and others included. There's some lesser known people who are meeting with Trump. They're meeting with advocates of Trump, people that Trump knows and respects, and they're trying to get things done. And the continuation of this rhetoric, the uptick of this rhetoric against the President of the United States, or the soon-to-be President of the United States, is almost treasonous, and it's such a disgrace to our community because you have to work with the president to get things done. And
you absolutely do. Steve Harvey, I think, is 100% correct when he said, if you want to be part of the change, you have to sit at the table. Gianno, Democrats have spent the last 8 years calling Republicans the party of no and accusing Republicans of not working across the aisle or not being willing to compromise. Yet the second Donald Trump starts meeting with black Democrats, they just blow up. They say, no, we can't do this. This is a betrayal of everything that we are. But in my opinion, they're just wrong about that.
It's the party of hell no now, Liz. And I tell you, I think at the end of the day, and I was on Roland Martin's show yesterday debating with him, and I made comment that you can't even go into a meeting with President-elect Trump without being called names, and he disagreed. He said, yeah, you can do X, Y, Z, so we made a $10,000 bet on it. The moment we did, people were on Twitter saying, you can't go into a meeting with President-elect Trump and be African-American and go in and think that it's going to be all well and done, because that's not where we are at this time. And I'm just hopeful that this doesn't create a violent situation for those who want to stand out and speak up in favor of our country, because this isn't about Donald Trump or his politics. This is about our country. Either you're going to be country first or you're out of the game, and I have a problem with that for folks.
Right. It's also about respect, I think, for individual thought, not groupthink here. That we talk about racial divide in our nation, but the idea that somebody, because their skin is black, is supposed to think a certain way or they're going to be ostracized from their community. I mean, that's not modern thinking. That's absolutely terrible. Gianno, I do want to cover one more thing before we run out of time here. This was something else that Mark Lamont Hill said. He said, you know, you get comedians, actors, and athletes to represent black interests. He's talking about Trump meeting with various celebrities, and he said, stop doing that and bring someone in with expertise. Gianno, you and I have talked about this on my show so many times before.
Beyonce,
we've said
President Obama.
Right, exactly. We've said before that reforms in the black community ultimately need to start with the family, but that type of message, those types of values need to be preached from the top down. And I guess my last question is, isn't that what Trump is doing, talking to the influential people within the black community?
You know what's so interesting? African Americans widespread went against Trump so hard in the primaries and general election. And during the general election, he continued to mention black issues. People couldn't mention many of his plans because he largely ran on themes, but he had a black plan, right? He's the only candidate that we know to have an actual black plan. And in spite of many African Americans saying that they weren't voting for him, they weren't supporting him, hashtag not my president, he's still meeting with African Americans. And this is only 12 to 13% of the population. To me, that speaks to the heart of what's going on here. This is someone who really wants to better the inner cities. This is someone who really wants to put the resources behind different plans and opportunities to create prosperity within the African American community, certainly all communities, but this is a community that's been hurting for far too long. So with that being the case, why not work with him?
Right, you're absolutely right. He does have a plan, and I think you make a great point. He's not backing down just because of the criticism, and he's certainly not toting around a bottle of hot sauce in his purse, hoping that that will be enough.